Hey everybody, it's Mom of Two, I for One, and thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks so much for clicking on this video. I hope that I'm able to entertain you and make you laugh or make you think or make you go, oh, she has a really good point at some point during this video. And for those who are returning for the second or third or eighth or 100th time, thank you guys so much for continuing to click on my videos and continue to support me on this channel. I'm Mama Two Wife of One. I am an editor, I'm a writer, I'm an author, I am a mommy, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, a daughter, all those, multiple things all in one. And I come on this channel to talk about a few different things, but as you can see from the title below, I'm here to discuss Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 14, which is called No Hug for You. According to my calculations, at least for past seasons, we are probably about two-ish episodes away from Decision Day. And then after Decision Day, they normally have the reunion. I typically don't watch the reunion, not because I don't care what the couples are up to, but I really don't like the host of the reunion show, Kevin Frazier. I think he's really messy, and I'm just not a fan of those kinds of personalities, which is why I don't watch a lot of reality shows. Like, I don't like that person who's constantly picking and constantly, poking the bear and trying to stir up drama, which is probably why sometimes I'm not a big fan of Alexis this season, because I feel like she does that as well, but we're going to get to that a little bit later. But either way, I'm here to do my review and recap of last night's episode. We're going to start with Stasha and Nate. I want to say, and this is probably my first time saying this, Nate is probably my favorite person on this show this season. He just has no cut cards. He is very upfront, honest. This is what it is. This is how I feel. And I absolutely love it. There wasn't a lot with Stasha and Nate. And whenever we don't see a lot of a couple, it's because that couple is the one doing the best for the most part. As you know from last week, we are down a couple. So now instead of 5 couples, we have 4. And truly, Morgan and Ben didn't add a lot to the show anyway, except for unnecessariness. So they're not missed at all. It's kind of whatever. But Sasha and Nate didn't have a lot going on. They bought some freaky sex toys. And I said in my notes, like, as soon as they had sex, they opened Pandora's box. And now the fact that the focus every week is on their sex life and on using these toys and I think he bought like a leather paddle that he smacked her butt with, and she got some vibrating panties, and he said at the altar, his friend said at the altar that he was a freak, and she's definitely matching his freakiness. I did put that I think they're matched really well because they're both kind of about that life, which I think is great. And on this episode, all the couples had a couples retreat because in this episode, they're about 8 to 10 days away from Decision Day. So couples retreat is their chance to kind of get away from the apartment complex, be in this really nice house, play some games, have some alone date time, but also do stuff together as kind of almost a last hurrah before Decision Day, and kind of feed off of the other couples to ask them, how are you doing? What kind of things are you navigating? How can I help you? Whatever. So on this trip, they decide to have a prom because Lindy has never had a prom. So I guess it was Miguel's idea to have a prom for Lindy. So everyone came wearing beautiful gowns and they all got superlatives. Nate got best dancer and Stasha she was voted best all around, beautiful inside and out, which I thought was so really sweet because she seemed really taken aback. Like, wow, no one's ever talked about me that way. So I really like that. Alexis got best gossip. And when I tell you Nate was on it, because you guys have watched this season, Alexis is a huge gossip, but Nate and Stasha had their own little aside, and they were just talking, and Nate was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, she's the gossip queen, she caused Ben and Morgan's divorce. Oh god dang, Nate, okay, tell them how you really feel. And obviously that's true, but no one has said it in those terms, so even Stasha was like, oh okay. But I think inside she was like, well, that's my husband, he said what he said and he ain't taking it back, and I'm not mad at it. He also called Alexis a snitch. It's I love Nate. I really love that he speaks his mind. He is not afraid. He does not sugarcoat anything. He's like, it is what it is. She caused their divorce. She's a snitch. She should have kept her mouth shut. It's that's what everybody has been saying, but none of the individual couples have said that in those words. They may have hinted at it or just kind of walked around it. But Nate was very open and honest, and I thoroughly appreciated it. I laughed out loud. I was like, you know what, Nate? Okay, I'm with you. And then their other story also was kind of telling. After they had their prom, the next day, all the couples did something individually. I did find it interesting, actually, that we didn't see Nate and Stasha having a date. We saw Kristen and Mitch. They did archery. And then Lindy and Miguel, they went on a carriage ride. And Alexis and Justin, they did like wine tasting, but we didn't see Nate and Sasha have a date. And again, I'm thinking it's because they're the ones who are doing the best, so maybe every day is a date for them. I don't know. I thought it was kind of telling that we didn't see them have that moment. And there was a moment where Sasha, Alexis, and Kristen were all in the kitchen, and Alexis is talking about her intimacy issues with Justin. Kristen is talking about where they are now with her and Mitch and their conversation and all that stuff. And Sasha was the only one that had nothing to say. And I love that for her, because that's a sign that things are going well. I don't have anything to discuss. I have no problems. We are good. But I like that she didn't lord it over their heads. She wasn't bragging. She was definitely there and still trying to be supportive of her friends and listening to their issues. And I love that she is in such a place where she's able to just be and exist and be that friend. And for once, not have something to bring to the table. So that just made me really happy for her and for Nate. And she put on the vibrating panties. It was her idea to put on the vibrating panties during their dinner that they have with the other couples. And when I tell you, that buzzer is so loud. And I will say that I've always wanted to get some of those. I have not. But I think the thrill of it is just really exciting. But just the fact that it was her idea, I thought was very funny. Because even Nate's saying like, oh, so you're the freaky one. Okay, I like that. And again, very well matched with each other. And then he couldn't turn the freaking thing off. So they're at dinner and she's squirming and she's practically standing up and doing all that stuff because he couldn't figure out how to work the remote. So that was a really funny scene because Alexis picked up on it right away. And Kristen picked up on it too, because like Sasha was like kind of low, not really moaning basically. It's kind of like her breathing was impacted. She was moaning a little bit. So that was a really funny scene. And it was some nice little levity. It was really nice and light to have that in the episode. And that's really all that happened with them. It wasn't really a lot. They're definitely my favorite couple. I feel like they're most people's favorite couple at this point because we can clearly see how they're both working hard to make the relationship work. And it just seems really natural at this point. So they're great. I really like them. We'll do Alexis and Justin next. So Alexis and Justin have had sex finally. Alexis didn't seem too impressed with the sex. She said because he's been celibate for so long, his stamina isn't all the way there. And, you know, she was very politically correct with the way she was saying everything. But she definitely had an expression of, like, yeah, so we had sex. And that was pretty much it. If someone doesn't say anything after that, then you know, oh, okay, it must have been disappointing for you. But she and Sasha and Kristen were talking about it. And, you know, I do agree. The first time you have sex with someone, it's always awkward, especially after not having sex for so long. But even without that, the first time you have sex with anybody, whether you love them or not, whether you've been with them for a long time or not, it's always going to be awkward because you don't know what they necessarily like. You're operating off of past relationships and past women or past men, where it's like, okay, I know that most men like their, I don't know, like a tongue in their ear, for instance, or most women like me to play with their nipples. But, you know, she may not like that and he may not like that. So the first time you have sex with someone, if you guys haven't had these conversations previously, you're operating based off of what you know. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that person likes that. So it's all a learning curve. So the first time it's a point of just kind of getting it out the way to get the sexual tension off the table and just kind of going for it. And then, you know, later on, hopefully it gets a little better with conversation and with trial and error. And, you know, I got the impression from talking to the girls that she's willing to see where this goes. She's not going to stay in a relationship. She's not going to leave a relationship just because the sex isn't that great, especially for just the first time. I didn't get the impression that they've been having sex often, but they just had sex just this one time, I think. So just off of one time, that's not enough to make her leave a relationship. It helps, obviously, if the sex is good. But sex can always be better with a person if both people are willing to adjust to the other person's needs and the other person's requirements, shall we say. So, you know, I think there's kind of hope there, but I also don't get the impression that, because she mentioned to the girls, you know, their sex isn't everything. And she asked them, have you guys ever stayed in a relationship where the sex may not have been what you wanted it to be? And they were like, yeah, because, you know, sex is great, but it's not everything. And this person had everything else but the sex, and it was worth me staying in the relationship. And I agree to a certain extent. Sex is not everything. I definitely agree with that. But if the sex is bad, for lack of a better term, and even if that person knocks off every other thing on your checklist and they're wonderful, amazing, they're honest, hardworking, all these wonderful things, but the sex never gets good, it's hard to bypass that and kind of brush that off as, oh, well, that's not that important. All these other things are great. yeah, all these other things are great, but you need the sex to at least be decent. Even if it's not amazing sex, if it doesn't go from bad to amazing, that's fine. But if it at least goes to decent, or, oh, the sex is cool, then I think that's okay, because at least you're doing something. And no matter what people say about it not being that big of a deal, you still want that level of intimacy. You still want that physical contact, and you still have needs at the end of the day. So I personally don't really see a future for Alexis and Justin, not even with the sex part, but I feel like, and I've said this before, that I like Alexis. I don't mind Alexis. I shouldn't say I like her. I don't mind Alexis at times, but I don't think she was the best fit for the show. I believe that she does want to be married, but I don't think she's done enough work to figure out why her first inclination is always to run. And I feel like she still just kind of has one foot out the door, and she's just kind of hanging on because I signed up for this, I'm going to stick it through kind of thing. But it's not enough to want something to work. You have to actually want that specific person. So I believe her when she says she does want to be married, but I don't know if Justin by himself is enough to convince her to stay married. And it's interesting because whenever they have a conversation, and you can tell by the change of music that it's not necessarily turning into an argument, but it's turning into some kind of disagreement, or they're not seeing eye to eye on something. Most of the times with them, I can't figure out what exactly the argument is about, or what exactly the disagreement is about. It's really confusing for me. And I'm a smart person, but I'm like, I don't get, aren't y'all saying the same? I don't understand. So they had like a little bit of a moment, but it was nothing big. So nothing really happened with them. I will say that out of all of the prom dresses, Alexis killed it. First of all, we already know Alexis has a bomb body. Her body is freaking phenomenal. And black skin looks amazing in orange. And she had this floor length orange gown, gorgeous. The breasts were up and they were saying, hello, hi, we're here. And she had this beautiful head wrap. It looked so pretty. She by far had my favorite outfit of all of the other prom people. And like I said, she was voted gossip, the town gossip or whatever. And he was voted most emotional, which obviously we already know. And she was also voted life of the party. And that was pretty much it with them. Nothing big happened, which is fine. Lindy and Miguel. I'm trying to debate, should I do Kristen and... Well, we'll do Kristen and Mitch. Because Lindy and Miguel, I feel like the episode was mainly about them. So Kristen and Mitch, if you guys remember from last week, they had an episode that they call Poolgate. Now, all the couples were together after having seen the experts, and Kristen was really hurt and upset because Mitch told her sister that, I don't know how to communicate to Kristen that I prefer her when she's natural and not wearing makeup, not, wearing dressed up clothes. Like, that's kind of my preference for her. And Kristen got really hurt and upset by that. And she blew up, basically. She snapped. So their conversation going up to the couples retreat was her basically acknowledging that probably wasn't the best time to have that conversation and apologizing. And I did agree with him because he basically was like, I felt like I was attacked, which he was. Now, granted, I don't think Mitch is a dumb person, so I believe he understands why Kristen was upset, but I completely agree that conversation should never have happened in front of everybody like that, because it was in front of the experts and all the couples. That should have been a one-on-one conversation about, this is how I feel, my sister told me this, and as soon as her sister told her that, they should have had that conversation before they went to the pool and kind of hashed everything out then and there, and then they could have gone to the pool and everything been kind of fine. So I'm glad that she apologized for her, because I do think that he deserved an apology for that. And, like I said, she understands that she should have handled last week a little bit better. Not saying that she wasn't right to have her feelings, but again, it's a time and place for everything. And that completely was not the time or place, because there was no build up to it. It was kind of like out of nowhere. Let me tell you why I don't like this, and I deserve an apology from you, and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, what? And I said that last week. He looked so stuck, like, what the heck just happened? And that wasn't fair to him. So I've always said this, that I like the way they communicate with each other, but I feel like the communication, I don't know where the lag is anymore. They used to just kind of freely talk about whatever was on their mind. And I don't know, I feel like the communication has really dropped. It's dropped. It's not as strong. They're not as confident with the things that they say. They're definitely holding back from each other a little bit more, which is a shame. And, I kind of understand in a new situation, you're holding back a little bit because you don't want to hurt the person, which is fair. That's a fair point. But in holding back, you are also denying yourself something that could make the relationship better for you and even better for you as a couple by not saying certain things. And it's all about the way you say something. You can say something that's not as flattering, not as sweet, not as nice. You can frame it in a way that the person understands your intention. Because if you say something the wrong way, your intention gets lost all in there, because you're thinking, woo, I got it off my chest. I said what I need to say. And all they're feeling is attacked, or they're feeling neglected, or they're feeling, bruised and battered or whatever. And it's because you didn't take the time to think about the intention of your words. It's not just the delivery. So I feel like that's kind of happening with them. And yeah, that's a little sad. He did call her beautiful and smart and a great partner. That's the first time ever calling her beautiful, and she was really happy about that. She was like, I've been waiting to hear that for 8 weeks. I'm glad that I heard it from you. That's great. He was voted most likely to save the planet and class clown, and she was voted for herself, most likely to end up with multiple divorces. And first of all, I don't know why that was even a category for prom superlatives. I feel like that doesn't make any sense to have that as a category. I don't think that's funny when everybody's just days away from decision day. I didn't think that was a funny thing. I thought that was kind of weird. Like I said, they did some archery. She really wanted to spend some quality time with him. So that's good. That she still wants to spend time with him is obviously a good sign. And this was an interesting question. Either Sasha or Alexis asked her about decision day and what she thinks her answer would be. She said, the wife in me wants to say yes, but the woman in me wants to say no. I thought that was such a profound statement, because I feel like as a wife and as a mother, a lot of times our decisions are based on the roles that we currently have. So, for instance, those of you who aren't married or those of you who aren't parents, sometimes a simple decision, let's say buying something at the store, right? Let's say you're shopping. And you're in whatever store it is, and you're like, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is nice. Oh, this is great. Oh, I can get this and this. And I know, at least for me, and I'm also an overthinker, so, take that with a grain of salt. I may have 6 items in my hand of dresses, shirts, pants, whatever, things that I really like. And I'll look at the 6 things before even trying them on. I'm like, well, I don't really have anywhere to wear this. Yeah, I don't really need that. He may need some new school shoes, so let me put this back so I can have money for his shoes. Oh, my husband does need that belt for work. Okay, let me do this. And at the end of the day, normally, if I have 6 items in my hand, I've whittled it down to maybe 1 piece, because I've talked myself out of getting everything else, because I'm thinking about, as a mother, what do my children need? As a wife, what does my husband need? And a lot of times, I neglect myself as a woman and my own personal needs, because I'm so consumed with the roles that I have. And there's a lesson to all of you who want to be married or who want to become parents one day. It is okay to be about your children. It is okay to be about your spouse. But remember that you were not born a mother or a father, and you were not born a husband or a wife. You were born as a man or born as a woman, and you need to make sure that you're getting serviced and make sure that you're getting fed in addition to everybody else, because we're, especially as women, we're used to taking care of everybody else. There's nothing wrong with taking care of everybody else, as long as it's not at the expense of you being neglected and you thinking that you don't have a voice, or you thinking that it's not right for you to ask for certain things because everybody needs me, depends on me, whatever. That's not fair to you. And so I understood what Kristen meant with that statement. Again, I thought it was a very profound statement. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I don't think she and Mitch are even a bad couple. I've said this before. I like them as a couple. And I like Kristen for Mitch, if that makes sense. And I guess that's unfair of me to say, if I don't know if I like Mitch for Kristen. I don't know. I can see what she has brought to his life. I can see how she has enriched it. And I can see how important it was for him to really feel accepted and heard by somebody who wasn't in judgment of him. And that's what he needed. And that's exactly what he got. I'm not completely sure what Kristen is getting out of being married to Mitch, with the exception of being somebody's wife. And, maybe she can answer that a little bit better, because obviously she's in it and I'm not. And obviously when watching a show like this, it's edited down to less than 2 hours. So we're only seeing snippets of everybody's situation, whether it's the really, really high highs or the really low lows. We don't get to see the mundane stuff in the middle. And a lot of times for the succession of a relationship, it's all about the mundane stuff that makes it worthwhile, that makes it worth fighting for. And I feel like I don't get to see that a lot. So again, I don't really know what Mitch is doing for Kristen, other than her being able to say that I am finally somebody's wife. I don't know what else he's bringing to the table and how else he is possibly enriching her life. I don't really see it, but I could be wrong. There's also a scene in the episode last night where all the couples are together just like chit-chatting, and she comes in dressed like Mitch and like talking like him and just kind of mocking him. And he loved it. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world. They all thought it was funny. I thought it kind of came out of nowhere, so I didn't really get it. Like, women, why are you doing this? But, maybe this is part of personality because she's funny. And I was like, okay, I guess. It was funny, but I thought it came out of nowhere. And I just thought it was kind of a weird thing. But what do I know? There's also a really funny scene with Kristen and Alexis and Stasha. They were in the kitchen talking. And Alexis was talking about how she doesn't believe in using sex toys. She's like, oh, I have a husband. If I got a man, I don't need sex toys. Like, what do I need that for? And Kristen looked at the camera and was like, I have 3. And I was like, I know that's right. Basically, like, I got 3 vibrators. Like, man or not, I'm going to have my toys. And I was not mad at her. I thought that was a really cute scene. And so, okay, we're going to go to Lindy and Miguel. I'm going to say this. One of Lindy's friends said in last week's episode, she told Miguel, y'all don't know if you've seen this side of Lindy, but Lindy can get really hangry. So when she's hungry, she gets an attitude and it's not pretty, blah, 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 blah. Now, we have not seen that yet, and he said he hasn't seen it. But we see that when Miguel doesn't get his nap, Miguel's an a-hole. And, there have been conversations that Lindy and Miguel have had in the past about Miguel not appreciating when she talks to him a certain way or not appreciating when she has these attitudes for whatever reason. So knowing that he's had this conversation with her, knowing that it does bother him sometimes when she quote unquote flies off the handle, I thought that that's what we were getting again with their first disagreement. Like, oh, well, she must have really said whatever. But then hearing her tone, I was like, no, he's tripping. I'm pretty sure he's tripping. So they did this thing where they're in a room together and we just see on the bottom of the screen their dialogue, but we don't physically see them in front of each other. So this is the scene. They're getting ready for the prom. She's gotten dressed and she wants her husband to take a picture of her. Like most wives do. Can you take a picture of me by the window, doing this, whatever. So I guess he's laying on the bed and he's relaxing. He's annoyed by the fact that she is not reading the room or reading his energy. So if she sees him resting, she should be like, okay, babe, I know you're resting. I'm going to get somebody else to take a picture of me. She's not picking up on that. So she's like, babe, take a picture of me. And she's kind of getting slightly annoyed that he's trying to take a selfie or he's not really taking it seriously. And then he gets annoyed back with her. And mind you, her version of annoyed wasn't like, what are you doing? It's not like that. It's like, babe, come on. No, I said a selfie. No, babe, please do it this way. Kind of whiny, but not to the point where she's about to curse him out. Like, I didn't get annoyed from her. I got whiny from her. But he was like, he said, don't expect me to be your personal photographer. So already it's like, I'm sure for her, she's like, what are you talking about? Because I was completely taken aback by the comment and he wasn't raising his voice at all, but he could hear that he was like literally pissed. And she's like, what? I don't even understand what happened. Like, I asked you to take a picture of me. What's the big deal? And again, he's mad because you see that I'm lounging, I'm chilling. You should be able to feel that my energy is low. So you should be able to tell that I want to be left alone. So you shouldn't ask me to do anything. So the fact that you asked me to do this means you can't read the room, means that you don't really know me, means that you're inconsiderate, means that you're da-da-da-da. She's like, wait a minute, what? It was just a lot coming at her at once. And while sometimes Lindy does get on my nerves, I completely understood her being so confused and so just overwhelmed. Like, what the heck are you talking about? So I felt for her in that moment, especially because this is right before y'all go to prom. Like, really? And I put that in my notes. Said Miguel is tripping. She wasn't nearly as annoying as she could have been. And his tone when he told her to watch her tone was very condescending. Didn't appreciate that. So they go down to the prom. They even had little yearbooks to sign, which I thought was really cute. And he said that he's worried that she's easily annoyed. And it jarred him because he perceived it as an outburst. I'm like, she wasn't yelling. She wasn't like, keep in mind, the conversation they had about him putting her on his insurance, that was an outburst because she's like cursing at him. This conversation was mild compared to that. So you notice wasn't no freaking outburst. And so again, I was looking at kind of the side eye, like, I think Miguel's tripping. I don't know if this feels right. This doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a big deal like he's making out to be. I was kind of confused and I was like, maybe I missed something. And I agreed with her when she said that he was being selfish in that moment. You planned this whole night for her because she did not have an actual prom. She went to a school that did not have formal dances. She wasn't even allowed to dance. So you had this great night for her with the prom, with, like I said, superlatives and yearbooks and all these decorations. If y'all going to have this issue, whatever, because like basically it picked up on the conversation at the prom, I would have been like, you know what, let's table this for tomorrow. Let's just enjoy this night. This night is about you. It's about celebrating with our friends. Let's just have this night to be dressed up and to have fun, to kiss, to dance, to do all that good stuff. And that should have been it. But the fact that he still like wanted to have that conversation right then and there, we're at a prom. We're supposed to be having fun. What are you doing? So I had a problem with that. I did think that was very selfish of him to do it. And I guess in his mind, well, I need to let her know because blah, blah, blah. And one thing she told him, she was like, okay, well, you're saying that I'm this and this, but in that moment of me getting excited about going to my first like formal dance as a grown-up and being happy that my husband planned this for me, and you having that attitude with me, it made me feel neglected and it made me feel vulnerable. He didn't even acknowledge her feelings at all because he was so consumed with whatever he was feeling that it's like, okay, didn't like that. At the prom, though, she was voted biggest drama queen, and they were voted most likely to stay married and prom king and queen, which was like, okay, that's cute. So they go on this carriage ride the next day. And if you remember correctly, because I forgot, Miguel is like a romantic. He's a poet. So he's reciting poetry to her, but to a rhyme scheme, I guess, almost like he was rapping. I wasn't paying attention. But this is her first time on a carriage ride. So she's like looking around. She's being easily distracted. Like, oh, look at the bunny. Oh, it's so nice outside. Oh, this or this. And kind of interrupting him while he's reciting his poetry. So he's getting even more annoyed. But he doesn't say anything on the actual carriage ride. He waits till they get off and tells her, like, I don't even want to effing say anything because, you know, you might see a bunny again, or you might see a deer, or, oh, the sky may be turning blue. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. So he's getting annoyed all over again. Like, I don't like when you interrupt me. I don't like when you do this. My thing is, though, you got on her last night about not reading the room, not reading the energy. And now I accused him of the same thing. You're on a carriage ride with this woman who's never been on a carriage ride ever in her life. You know that when she's in new situations like this, she's extra excited. Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh, this is so nice. Oh, this is this. And, you know, that's a natural reaction for Lindy. She is that kind of person. So if you know that, again, read the situation then. If you want her to be so in tune to you, this is a time when she's going to be looking at everything. She's not going to just sit still and listen to you because it's a carriage ride. She's looking around and absorbing everything because that's her personality. So you should have read that situation and not try to recite poetry in that moment. That's my personal take on it. Whatever. And she basically walked off in tears because he was really irritable and he was like, I have low energy. You know, I had low energy before we came on this trip because of work. And now I'm just drained talking to you, kind of saying the same thing over and over again. And she got not overly emotional. She got emotional and walked away crying. I understood exactly what she was feeling because it's one thing for me to say to you as the viewer, let's say you are in place of my husband. You know, I had such a good time today, but it does bother me sometimes when I'm trying to talk to you and you interrupt me. Like, I know you're really excited and I get that. And maybe I should have chosen a different time to recite my poetry. But I just want to let you know they kind of hurt my feelings. Like, I really don't like when people interrupt me. It just really it drives me crazy. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I know you didn't do it on purpose, but, you know, I did notice and it did hurt me a little bit. Context and the way I'm saying it. I'm not saying you're a horrible person. I'm not saying you're a horrible wife. I'm not saying that there's no hope for us. I'm saying that in that moment, this is how I felt. I enjoyed the moment, but this is how I felt in that moment because of X, Y, and Z. That's all he had to do. But this is the second day in a row now where he's basically got on her for something that either she thinks she can't control or something that she didn't know she was doing. I do agree that being interrupted is annoying. So I agree with him being irritated by that. I wouldn't have gone to the extreme that he did. But I understand him being annoyed by that, right? So that is something you need to tell your spouse. That is something that maybe they can work on. And she's like, but you know, I can't help it. That's just me. And it's like, no. That's not an excuse to say that's just me. I interrupt people. No, because she's focused on overall personality traits. But you interrupting somebody, that's not a personality trait. That is something that you can change, especially for a person who just said that this annoys me. His approach sucked. And I think because his approach in expressing that was awful, that's why she didn't fully comprehend exactly what he was saying to her. So I get what he was coming from, and I understand why she misinterpreted the way she did. But all of that was a very easy fix for all of that. He could have really just not done the poetry during the carriage ride, and then after the carriage ride was over, talk to her about it, but not say it in the terms of you suck as a wife because you did X, Y, and Z. And I don't know how we can pass now. I don't even know if I want to stay with this. I don't know if I want to stay married to you because I don't know if I can deal with this the rest of my life. Like, you ain't got to go there. You didn't have to do any of that stuff. That was just overkill for no reason. So, and I said, I understand his frustration, but he also admitted to coming on a trip with low energy. So that's making him fall short with her. And granted, that is something that she can learn from this. Like, okay, when he has low energy, he's not going to be in the best mood. He needs to rest. He needs to recuperate. But if that was the case, she obviously doesn't know this about him. Yes, she's learning it now. But if you are Miguel, you know this about yourself, then you should have been like, look, told her up front, my energy is really low. So I apologize in advance because I might get kind of short with you because I tend to do that when I have a lot of energy. But I want this weekend to be good for you. I want you to have your prom. But I'm just letting you know that I may get short with you and I'm apologizing first off. After the prom, after having that irritation with her before the prom started, the next day I probably been like, you know what? I know you want to do the carriage ride, but my energy is even worse than it was yesterday. And I don't ever want to snap at you like I did yesterday. So I'm going to go home early. You can stay up here with the, if you have a choice, you can come home with me or you can stay up here with, with everybody else. I still want you to have fun. I still want you to enjoy your weekend. But I know that if I stay here, it's not going to be that enjoyable because I'm not going to be able to be there for you 100% like I want to be. And be honest with yourself. You know how you are, but she doesn't. So at any time he could have left or any time in the beginning, he should have said that before they got in the freaking car to drive to the house. Hey, I don't know if it's going to work out, but I ain't feeling my best. Anything. So I put all this blame on him. And I had a feeling about him from the very beginning. I was like, I don't know about Miguel. I don't necessarily have that feeling anymore, but this particular episode, I was like, no, this is all your fault. Completely your fault. I don't blame her for any of this. So he recognized he needs to approach things differently. So I like that he came to that conclusion on his own. But then he went ahead and acted like an a-hole again. So, I can't give you too much credit for recognizing, oh, man, I was so mean to her. I shouldn't have done that. My approach was off. I'll do better next time. And then you turn around and do the same thing again. What the freak are you doing? I don't understand. So she expressed that she understood. And this is the thing. This is when I was like, oh, he's really, big tripping. So they get back from the carriage ride. They're about to have dinner with everybody. And all the girls are cooking dinner together, having a great time while the guys are outside chilling. So she's supposed to be in there cooking with the girls while he's supposed to be chilling with the guys. So she's outside, and it's a beautiful sunset. It's a really beautiful house. She wants to take a picture by the thing, and he's sitting down chilling, right? So she's learning her lesson. She's like, okay, yesterday he was chilling, and he didn't want to be disturbed because the energy was low. Okay, so I want to take a picture again outside, but I see that he's chilling. I don't want to interrupt him, so I'm going to ask a production person to take a picture of me. So that's what she does. Ask a production person, hey, can you take a video of me doing this, or a picture of me doing this, whatever. So she does that and doesn't say anything to him about it. He's right there, but she doesn't say, oh, I know you're not interested in this. Just have somebody else do it, and she keeps it pushing. And he gets an attitude about that. And he's like, that doesn't, you can't ever ask me for a picture. She's like, no, I understand, but you were chilling, and I didn't know if you wanted to keep looking at the, scenery or not, so I just asked somebody else. That way you can still just chill, and, I just didn't want to accidentally make that mistake again, which I think is a very valid response, and it makes sense, and it's showing that I'm listening to you, so I'm trying to adhere to what you said before, and I'm trying to do better at reading your energy. That is her trying, so I understood. Then he got pissed off about that. Like, well, you could have asked me, and, I just don't feel like you understand. She's like, no, you told me that the energy and this, and I'm reading it, and da-da-da. She basically told him verbatim what he said to her yesterday. Like, I understand exactly what you said, so therefore, I did not ask you to take this picture of me because I wanted to make sure I'm giving you your space and allowing you to do what you need to do to recharge. So the fact that he was pissed off about that, she's probably like, I can't win for losing. If I ask you to take a picture, I'm the bad guy because I can't read your energy. If I get somebody else to take my picture, now I'm an a-hole wife for not asking you to take my picture. Like, what do you want from me? So, of course, it, turned into her crying again and feeling really, I'm sure she was feeling like ish, basically, like, I can't do anything right with you this weekend. What else do you want from me? I don't understand. What do you want? What else can I freaking do? I'm doing my best. So I understood her just feeling overwhelmed and just sobbing, basically, and walking away. The producer's like, it's okay. You don't have to go to dinner. So they end up not going to dinner with the couples. She goes to the bathroom, closes the door. She's crying. He goes in there. He's talking to her again. And he's like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this. And he even said in his little interviews, like, I recognize that I'm being negative and I'm being disrespectful, and this is not me. It's like, it is though, because you're the one doing it. But I do understand certain circumstances. Some people are a different way when they're hungry, when they are tired, when they are grouchy for whatever reason, when they're hot. Like, I get it. But again, it's not enough that you came to this realization at least 2 times on this trip that, hey, I'm being unfair to Lindy because my energy is low, because I'm tired, because of blah, 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 blah. I understand I'm doing this to her. I'm apologizing to her. This isn't me. I can't do this to her again. Then you turn right back around and do it again. So I, again, can't give you props when you continuously do this. When at any point you need to remove yourself from the situation, you keep saying, well, I know this means a lot to Lindy. Yes, it means a lot to Lindy, but do you really think that if she had a choice, she would choose for you to stay here and make her cry every single day, as opposed to being there by herself and you being home and getting the rest that you need, and her coming home to you and you being the Miguel that she still loves? I'm sure she would choose, like, all right, babe, I do want you here, but I don't necessarily want to be crying anymore, and I don't want you yelling at me anymore. So yeah, you go home. I'm going to stay up here. And I feel like even if she suggested that, he would have got an attitude about that. That suggestion should have came from him. So very disappointed that it didn't. It's like, look, I know you love your wife. I get that, but you know that you're not doing her any favors right now. You know that you're being mean to her. You know that you are ruining her weekend. So to save the weekend and allow her to still have her fun, you should have gone home right after the prom, like the morning after the prom, like, hey guys, I'm just going to go home. I'm really tired. You know, I talked it over with Lindy. She said she's going to stay. So if one of you guys can, you know, give her a ride home, that'd be great. But I'm just not doing anybody any good right now. And that would have been fine. Because then they play volleyball, not volleyball, dodgeball. They all play dodgeball. And I do like the fact that they split up the teams and no couple is on the same team, which is great. So on the red team is Lindy, Alexis, Nate, and Mitch. On the blue team, it is Miguel, Kristen, Stasha, and Justin. The red team wins, right? Which is fine. So it comes down to Nate and Miguel. And Nate, you know, gets Miguel. And of course, Lindy's like, yeah, Nate, get him. And Miguel's like, okay, well, you know, you could be on the side of your husband. She's like, babe, I am on the side of you, but, you know, we're on opposing teams right now. So I'm just trying to win because she's really competitive. And he knows that. So then after they win, she's giving everybody high fives. And Miguel's like, I mean, you know, just for once, you could have been on the side of your husband. Like, it wouldn't have killed you to show me some support. It's like, it's a game. It's a game. I've been through this with you all weekend. I'm tired right now. I'm mentally exhausted from going back and forth with you this weekend. I'm not doing this with you again. And I'm glad that she didn't like try to have a conversation with him about it right then and there. She was like, I'm not doing this. Like, she basically like, okay, babe, like, what else can I say? I'm not about to do this with you. So she goes back to her team and she's like, I'm happy we won, but I know that this is not going to be the end of it. I know I'm going to hear about this again. And I'm just tired of it. And she breaks into tears again. And I'm like, this man made you cry pretty much every day of this retreat. That's supposed to be nice. It's supposed to be the couple reconnecting and having fun and being with the other people. The fun she had at the prom, that was even tainted because they had an argument right before it and an argument during it. She didn't even get to have that all to herself. So I blame Mitch. Not Mitch. Ooh, sorry. Wrong man. I blame Miguel. This is all Miguel's fault. Personally, for all 4 couples, Alexis and Justin will not make it long term. Nate and Sasha are fine. Kristen and Mitch are not a bad couple, but I just can't clearly see what Mitch is bringing to the table. And Lindy and Miguel, I don't know. I think they can probably make it. I don't know if I necessarily like them together. But, I mean, they're okay. They're okay, I guess. I'm at the point now I'm ready for the season to be over. It's been 14 weeks now. Again, I think we are about 2 weeks away from it being over, so yay! But that is my review and recap. Let me know below. Comment on this video and let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about Alexis and Justin? Do you think that there's hope for them? Do you even like Alexis as a person? Because most people I talk to don't really care for her. How do you guys think about Lindy and Miguel? Were you surprised about his outbursts? Do you think Kristen and Mitch have a chance? Comment what you think below. I love answering your comments. I love reading your comments. Make sure you also like this video and share this video and subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, week, month, year, and I'll see you guys next week.